Am I the a-hole because I want to cash out my life insurance policy so I can spend my last 9 to 12 months in comfort? My parents, the beneficiary, are threatening to disown me. So yeah, I, male 28, have a terminal medical condition which I won't go into too much detail about. I didn't have the best health insurance/doctors, so I found out I had a big problem pretty much when it was too late. About the only thing I had of value other than some meager savings and an even smaller 401 in my car was a life insurance policy I got years ago when I was 18. It was a relatively small amount yearly and awesome terms, so why not? I always thought I could swap it over a future wife/kid, but not happening now. So, I haven't been able to work now for about 2 months. But I won't be eligible for hospice care until probably a few weeks before the end. The actual policy itself was for an eye-watering amount if I died before a certain age, which unfortunately is what is going to happen. I have been living at home with my parents rent-free since I stopped working, which is good of them. We haven't had the best relationship growing up, and they pretty much only did the minimum required by law in terms of how they raised me. No complaints, but not parents of the year material. A lot of this was due to finances. I have been putting money towards food and utilities, but not the rent they're paying, as that was a cost they were covering by themselves, and my being here hasn't increased it. Anyway, I have been investigating cash outs, both through the company and investor groups, that will give you a bit more in exchange for being named as beneficiary. I will probably stick with the company offer to get things moving faster. There are going to be some taxation issues, but the end result will be that my parents will essentially get an amount that will cover my funeral, and possibly a really good second-hand car. I estimate that the amount I will get will be enough for me to rent a nice condo near the beach, nice meals, maid service, some great experiences while I am well enough, and some in-home care nursing towards the end. My parents have basically said that the life insurance policy named to them will set them up for life and allow them to buy a house and invest, etc., and probably even retire early. They are in their 50s and were probably going to have to work until they dropped. They are telling me that they have made a lot of sacrifices to have me move into their house until I go to hospice, but I really don't see what that is, other than the inconvenience of 3 adults in a 2-bedroom house. One of them was going to give up work towards the end to provide some home care until I qualified for hospice, but my cashing out will mean they can keep working. I get that it would be the noble thing to help my parents out, but I don't want to. Edit. A few people have asked about the cash out versus beneficiary payment. 6 figures cash out, 7 figures if it goes to beneficiaries. It's a crazy good policy, but only because I am dying at the age I am and from the condition I have. It's like winning the worst lottery ever. Lol. Final edit. I'm tired and I'm going to have a nap. Thanks to all the messages of support and clarification on hospice entitlements and final advice. To put concerns to rest, when I said I won't be eligible for hospice for a few weeks before the end, I worded it badly, as much as is in my power. The only time I will go into hospice proper is my last few weeks. I am young and strong, and I plan to spend as much time by the sea until I can't. Let's see if life screws that up for me too. Lol. I will be meeting up with the social workers soon and making sure I claim everything I can. I love my parents despite the past, and my family, and I know this is putting a terrible strain on all of us. And I hope they will forgive me and keep the best memories on top. That's all, everyone. Take care. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your parents are looking at you as a post-mortem ATM. They actually are looking forward to you dying so they can cash in. Take the money and spend it how you wish. Right? What was it you said about naming one of the insurance companies as benefactor getting you more? Because I'm thinking that sounds good. Your parents sounds like ghouls, acting like their child with a terminal illness is some kind of lottery winning. It's utterly repulsive. I'd make a will and stipulate they get exactly enough to cover your funeral and final expenses, and have the rest go to the insurance company or a charity you care about. Or literally anyone but the people freaking rooting for you to die so they can cash in. Not the a-hole. It's your life, OP. It's your money, and you deserve to be able to live this time as you truly want. I would repay the funeral so they don't get buried in a cardboard box. Someone else said prepaying my funeral and making arrangements now would be a good gesture from my parents. I think it is a good idea as well. If you don't have long to go, you should be spending it as happy and comfortable as you are able to. Besides, it's your life insurance. It's your money. It's a kindness already to leave enough to cover funeral costs. Your loss shouldn't be their gain. They should want the best for you while you're here. Not stay whole. Thanks for that, man. Yeah, no parent should have to bury their child, so I think it's responsible for me to cover the costs. I am pretty sure my siblings and I will have to pay to bury my parents when their time comes, as saving money/earning money has never been their best point. It won't be my problem though, lol. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he chose his second family just like his dad did? My parents had me at a young age. I am now almost 29 and my parents are both in their mid-late 40s. Growing up, I saw my granddad, my dad's dad, a lot. But now me and my siblings don't exist to him and he hasn't spoken to my dad in years. He doesn't even know he is a great-granddad. My granddad remarried and pays more attention to the kids from that relationship and their kids. My parents split when I was 12. It was hard, but we got through it. And up until recently, I had a great relationship with my dad. The last time I saw him was 2 days before my daughter's birthday back in March. He made a surprise trip with my half-siblings and his girlfriend. Now, I don't expect him to drop everything because I live 2 hours away, but I was visiting my hometown for 2 weeks in August whilst dog-sitting for my mom. But he was always too busy with my half-siblings to even visit for half an hour. He doesn't even text or call, and he doesn't reply if I do. So I give up. I think what pushed me over the edge is that they can travel 4 to 6 hours to another country for a day out almost every other weekend, but won't travel 2 to see his granddaughter? So I snapped and told him this is how it started with his dad. He was around for his grandchildren, then just stopped and focused on his second family. And for someone who said he wouldn't be like his dad, he sure is acting like him. My dad's girlfriend piped up and said I got my dad when I was younger. So why can't my half-siblings get him now? I told her it's not about me. It's about my daughter knowing her granddad as he is the only person she doesn't know. At that point, she called me an a-hole for trying to ruin my half-siblings' childhood. Just to add, my dad lives with his girlfriend and half-siblings, so it's not like he only gets to see them every other weekend or every weekend. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What really gets me is his girlfriend's comment that you had him when you were young. As if growing up means he is no longer your father and you aren't meant to want time with him. I find that extremely entitled of her, because she really is prioritizing her children. No doubt he has a responsibility to them too, to provide for them, etc., but your age just doesn't make you any less his child. She's selfish and entitled, totally. You didn't mention what your dad's reaction was though, and that's what matters in my opinion. He didn't say anything about that. If I'm honest, I don't know why he's still with her. As with that relationship, she says jump and he says how high. It's not a very good relationship all around. I guess it stays for the kids. Not the a-hole, but don't bet on your dad. It hurts, like a lot, but better write him off now. Maybe a last try would bring closure. Sit down with him, alone, and have a sincere conversation. I'd love that, but he can't go anywhere without her, or she doesn't let him. And if I say something, I'm in the wrong. If she really doesn't let him go, he is a victim. But even though we want to help them sometimes, for our own sake, we have to let go of them or take some space. Tell him you're done, but if he ever wanted to talk, he can call. Try to free yourself of waiting for something you have no influence on. Next story. Am I the a-hole for selling my house which could cause my in-laws to be homeless? My wife was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago. She fought as hard as she could for as long as she could, but she sadly passed away 6 months ago. We never had kids, and both were very career-focused. After my wife's diagnosis, she wanted her parents to move in with us because they lived on the opposite coast of the US, and she wanted to spend as much time with them as possible. Our house had plenty of room for them, and I wanted to make my wife as happy as possible with the time she had left, so I agreed. Her parents are both retired, but they aren't exactly well off. We never asked them to help pay for anything while they lived with us. There was enough stress in our lives already, and none of us wanted to add financial issues to that. They helped with groceries from time to time, but we never asked for more than that. Lately, I've been struggling a lot with my grief. I feel like a lot of it is connected to our house and everything in it reminding me of my wife. I break down a lot over the tiniest stuff. My in-laws still live here, and as far as I know, they haven't made any arrangements for moving out. For the last month or so, I've been contemplating selling the house and pretty much starting over somewhere new to try and get away from so many triggers. I finally talked with a realtor a couple weeks ago, and I'm pretty much set on moving forward with selling the house. I brought it up with my in-laws over this past weekend, and it did not go well. They accused me of wanting to erase the life that my wife and I built here. But they accused me of wanting them out of my life now that my wife is dead. They told me they have nowhere else to go and I would basically be making them homeless. I can completely understand their anger and fear, but also this isn't their house nor their decision. I am simply wanting to move on from my lowest point in my life. I do not want to erase anything that my wife and I built together. But I also don't think I can continue living in this house. It's just too heartbreaking and I don't like crying every time a memory gets triggered. I ended up telling them that they are free to stay here for as long as it takes to sell the house. But I recommended that they start looking into making their own arrangements. Father-in-law asked if I would be willing to rent the house to them so that they don't have to find a new place. But when I told him what I would expect for monthly payments, he scoffed at it and called me out for trying to capitalize on their grief and that their daughter would have never wanted this. Neither one of them is talking to me now, and there is definitely palpable conflict in the air. I don't like that it has come to this, but I am making a decision based on what I think is best for me right now. I feel bad for the situation it puts my in-laws in, but I can't be responsible for their feelings in addition to my own right now. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You have been saving them money for the last 1 to 2 years. They could afford to live however they were living before, and they can live that way again. You are not capitalizing on their grief. They are trying to monetize your guilt. If anything, mother-in-law and father-in-law are capitalizing on Opie's grief. They knew moving in that they were there to spend the rest of their daughter's life together. There is no reason that they should be there 6 months after Opie's wife passed. If they had moved out after their daughter passed, even like a month or 2 later, Opie could have already sold the house and started to heal. Not the a-hole. You're not throwing them out tomorrow. You're telling them that you can't stay there and you're selling the home. There's no erasing the life you had with your wife. You'll carry that the rest of your life. You're entitled to doing what is best for you. Also, how did they think they wouldn't have to pay something to rent? Sounds like they just thought they'd live with you for free forever. Because you're a nice person? Not the a-hole at all. However, I'm just going to say from a housing market perspective, you might want to wait a few months. And instead of telling parents when it sells they have to move out, give a deadline, say 6 months. Otherwise, they'll either try to sabotage the sale or will wait until the last minute and claim you made them homeless. So sorry for your loss, and I hope a new place will help you heal. I don't care about a market. I just want to stop having breakdowns every time I have a triggering memory over something silly, like finding a beach towel my wife used on a vacation we took. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not moving out of my brother's house? My brother, 42 male, and his fiancée, 39 female, are getting married. I, 36 male, live with my parents who are in their 80s. My brother pays rent for the home. However, he lives in his apartment but will soon be moving back into his house and told me he wants me to move out, knowing I can't afford my own apartment. I am a military reserve part-time soldier and my brother is a mailman and realtor. My parents and I have lived with my brother for 10 years now, and now he wants me to move out without having any sort of plan or housing arrangement in place for me. He knows I don't make much, only roughly $12,000 a year since I only work once every weekend or when I am getting scheduled for drill, which obviously isn't often. I told him that I would move if he would allow me to live inside the apartment that he is currently living at, but he has declined and won't allow me to without giving any sort of reasoning. I feel it is his fiancée who encouraged him to go down this endeavor of putting me onto the street so suddenly, when my brother never mentioned any of this such and having any despair feelings of me moving out. In our culture, it is common for family to live together under one roof. I told him there is no way I am moving unless I am being allowed to stay in the apartment. You're the a-hole just thinking you could get by on a reservist's salary. You're the a-hole for thinking that it was perfectly acceptable and adult to have your brother, not even your parents for Pete's sake, pay your way through life. You're the a-hole for believing that any other adult would and could continue to pay for your lifestyle forever. I mean, come on, what was your plan had your brother died tomorrow? You're the a-hole for trying to shift the blame onto your future sister-in-law. That's some messed up sexist nonsense to assume that. But even if it's true, you're the a-hole for now expecting someone else to have to financially support your obviously capable but lazy butt. You're the a-hole because in all of this, not once did you think about how any of this is going to affect your geriatric parents. Where are they supposed to go? Go freaking enlist full-time and learn some self-respect, self-motivation, and basic common sense. All of this, especially the reservist part. OP, you know almost all reservists work full-time jobs too, right? What has stopped you in the past 10, 15 plus years from working more than reservist hours? You have spent your entire adult life being taken care of. It's time to grow up and take responsibility for your life and quit expecting everyone else to foot the bill. You're the a-hole. Yep, we had a reservist on my team, recently transferred to a new group, and he was a manager. When he had trainings or active duty, he would go on military leave and then come back. It never caused any issues with his employment here. My man, get your act together. You're not your brother's responsibility. It's his house. If it says get out, then you're going to have to put your big boy underwear on and get a job outside of your weekend soldier cosplay. You're the a-hole. You are 36. You officially were an adult at 18 years ago. You have lived far too long on your brother's dime. It is time to adult. Good for your brother that he recognizes this would be an infringement on his relationship with his fiancée to have his grown brother continue on as his dependent for no reason. Set some goals. Get some life counseling. Get a job. Spread your wings and fly.